very common tools. The second piece, a big piece, I would say, is the demand side. We need to understand the travel behavior part of it, like how people travel, where they go, what mode they take. So we need to do those kind of travel behavior survey. And travel behavior survey is mainly household-based survey. So we need to survey people, household, like how many people are going by what mode, when, what's your occupation, full-time job, where do you go. We need to geocode, we need to have your place of residence, place of work. So we do those kind of data collection. So it's important to do those kind of things. In general, like all big cities have regular programs, like regularly collecting a big sample of this kind of data. For example, in Toronto, as I told you, it's Toronto Transportation Tomorrow Survey. In Montreal, it's Origin Destination Survey, they call it. And in Vancouver, they do, I forgot the name, I believe it's just Travel Survey. Those kind of things. In Halifax, we also do these things periodically, but it's not regular yet, but we also collect that. So I will give one example, a best practice. In the United States, most of the MPOs, most of the state has similar kind of program, and it's a regular program. It's a necessary basic starting point. So, for example, TTS is for the 5% sample of Toronto, which is huge. Given the size of that, the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. So it's not just the Toronto, it's in GTHA, Greater Toronto and Hamilton. So in general, the type of information that we collect is we collect a 24-hour typical day, your start time for an activity, mode, origin, destination, and purpose. So it's not a very long survey, but it's basically, these are the main items we take from about the trip or trip characteristics. So for a given day, we can get that information. We also collect age, gender, occupation, and whether you are on school or not. There is a long debate for last 20 years whether we should collect income, but they couldn't conclude yet, so they don't collect income. For that, but income is a big indicator to understand this kind of travel behavior. The reason we don't collect, because there are sometimes privacy issues. Maybe people will not be willing to give you income, even income ranges. But I disagree with that team. Probably we can collect at least ranges to get some good ideas, because we have had some success in Halifax with doing that. And we also collect number of people in the household, dwelling time, number of vehicle licenses, those kind of things within these origin destination surveys. And the Arthur book that I mentioned at the beginning have a very good chapter, 4 or 5 or 6 pages explaining the entire process. Maybe you can also look at that as well. So they started these as 1986. So every 5-year interval, they does that, 1991, 2001, 2006, and I should add 2011 as well. So they have done that as well. So in general, they do telephone surveys, what they call CATI system, Computer Assisted Telephone Interviewing System. So it's not just the telephone you're calling, it's actually computerized process. So you can call, you can directly get all the information, get in, process, those kind of things. And in Halifax, we have like a couple of online surveys have done, not yet these kind of comprehensive surveys. Office of Sustainability, for example, does a very good data collection, very good data collection annually. Maybe you guys also have got that invitation to fill in the survey this year or last year, I don't know, in general November. We do that, so we have a very good idea about what's happening in Halifax, and our DALTRAC, or our lab, actually analyzed those data to get some kind of good trend. And one trend that I can report here is bicycle, we have analyzed 2009, 10, 11 last year, and bicycle mode share increased in these 3 years, and gradually with this bike, this probably it's an impact of bike racks and other improvement environment. So it looks like there are potentials to increase more, like if you can offer like some kind of bike lane or something like that. So it's a positive scenario. So yeah, so we need this kind of information to understand where we should invest, where's the problem area, where we should focus in terms of policy planning and different ways. Now this is the survey area for GTHA. So 2000, I think this was like the initial year, then they expanded in each year, and now it mostly cover the entire GTHA. The reason I am giving this example from Toronto is not just from Toronto. It's like a good example just to learn how we should be doing these kind of things, and many other jurisdictions are replicating this idea. So I think this is a very good idea, and a lot of consulting firms are involved in collecting this kind of data. So if you have jobs there, probably you should get some idea about how to collect this kind of data. And data collection is becoming quite fashion these days. We also use census data. In census, you might also find journey to work data set. If you are, how many of you ever use census data? Okay, census has one item called journey to work data set. So you have place of residence, place of work, as well as your commuting mode. So many jurisdictions, like particularly smaller municipalities, smaller towns, those do not have kind of a money to invest to collect those data. They usually use those census data, which is not trip data, but still useful information to understand your mode shift, mode choices, those kind of things. And these travel surveys are very costly. Like what we estimated for Halifax, like it probably could be 200 to 300,000 just for one pilot project. So it could be really, really costly. So that's why sometimes people rely on these kind of census data as well. But these are very crucial information for HRM. And we have also other kinds of information, housing types and expenditure data set, labor force data set. So you can see fuel consumption data set. There are a lot of national data set from which you can obtain some information about travel behavior, vehicle use, fuel consumption, and these information are useful to make your case for many decisions that we make in transportation planning. Another way of collecting some data is this cordon count, what we call. So it's more like a boundary base. For example, Central Toronto, Toronto City, York, Durham, York, like Peel. So you have big boxes, and we do collect data on the boundaries, like to make sure how many cars are coming that particular big boundaries, just to get a sense actually what is happening, particularly identifying what are the key destination areas, key trip generating areas which are important to understand, diversify, to offer land permit for certain kind of development, because we need to like make sure like we are concentrating job in one area or diversifying depending on our traffic pattern. Like for example in Halifax, like you can see, like we have traditionally this Halifax downtown area which was destination for a long time. Then Dartmouth also have a good downtown area which was an attraction, like we call it attraction area in terms of transportation planning jargons. But when we got this Dartmouth crossing, the whole pattern probably changed, and when we are getting these kind of newer kind of retail centers in 4C, Bedford Commons, or Bedford Bears Lake area. So we are actually creating, like we are changing the travel pattern, the OD pattern. OD is very important. O means origin, D is destination. So OD is a very, very important piece of understanding in transportation planning. So we need to understand what's the flow from where they are originating from home in the morning, and then where they are destined to. So any decision that we make obviously should have some kind of those kind of understanding, and we can get that from this cordon count. So cordon count is also a regular program in many departments in transportation planning, like they does this kind of counting to understand. different things. And this is, let's look at these cordon data, like I will not explain all, but you should look at after the class in my slide to just get some sense. Like you can see in a given time, so you say here, this is a 24-hour cycle, you can see from the traffic count, we can say like what is the peak period total volume. So you see there is a definite peak hour in the morning, there is a definite peak hour in the evening, and midday slowing down. And we need to design our roads to satisfy peak hours, right? We cannot design our road or like make our road only for off-peak hours. So we need to make sure we understand these kind of things. Yeah.
Is this measured by how many people or how many cars cross that boundary, or use the boundary kind of like
cross those road sections, road point, based on that particular point. So this is on average. I would say these graphs are more on average for this entire downtown block. So you can see some nice pattern. In downtown there is a definite pattern, right? There is a definite peak in two times, but you see in the suburban areas, like peak actually fluctuates, right? Peak fluctuates, it's not like the same peak. And also the time transition, maybe peak here is at 5 o'clock here, or 3:30 or something like, or peak start at 3, but here maybe peak start at 5 o'clock kind of. So there are differences. As a planner, we need to understand these kind of things to plan for effective, to plan it effectively. So a different time of day, kind of a screen count, and different years. And that's probably also interesting. I believe each of these lines represents 1991 to 1996 and 2001. And you can see actually probably blue lines. I'm not sure which one is it. I think blue line is the 2001, so you can see everywhere we are actually experiencing higher and higher vehicle use or traffic, number of traffic on the road. Okay, so this is very important to monitor the system, and quite often we do these kind of things. Now, I will show also some from those TTS, Transportation Tomorrow Survey, which is a travel survey, what kind of information we obtain and what we analyze. So you can see from, I think it's 2006 data set, so you can see trip rates, person's trip rate, trip per person, daily trip. So home-based work, daily trip is like close to 0.8 or something like that. In total per person in GTHA, take 2.5 trip. So in 2006, and you can see other types of trip, those kind of things here. And these are also the similar kind of representation by time of the day. Of different, by purpose, by gender, we can analyze those kind of things, by employment type, by vehicle ownership. So you can see this probably could be very, very interesting. Like the more vehicle you have in your household, you see your daily trip per household is quite high. Or maybe the relationship could be inverse too. Like since you need a lot of trips, that is why probably you have a lot of car at your home. Yeah, go ahead.
How are you defining zero vehicles? Is that public transit that they're counting?
No, zero vehicle means they asked how many vehicle they have. It's from the travel survey. So we know that in the household there is no vehicle. They don't own a vehicle.
So I mean, then how are they getting the daily trip?
Transit, walking, biking, cycling. So these are total trips. So these are not by mode choice.
So not total vehicle trips, just total.
Total trips. So in the from the household survey, we can get the total trips, whether it's walking, biking, or all other modes. Okay. So number of vehicles, you can see those kind of relationship. And these are probably obvious relationship in many cases, but sometimes we can get really, really surprised you see this is probably the mode share. So this is probably total mode share for all kinds of activities in a given day in Greater Toronto and Halifax, Hamilton area. So auto driver is 64%, right? Auto passenger is 16%, and transit, they subdivided transit into local transit, means TTS, TTC, the subways, and Go Transit is the regional transit. So it has probably 10%, local transit, Go have 0.7%, and walk cycle 6.3%, and other is 2.5%. So we can get these kind of things, and we can also get these kind of by trip purposes, like your mode share, so that we can monitor like what's happening this year and the next year. If we put a lot of infrastructure development or TDM program or bike lane or other things, we can monitor whether we are making progress, and evaluation of your performance of your transportation planning or even planning decisions, because this could be just a evaluation of planning decisions, land use planning decision, what I meant. Like can be evaluated whether we are making progress or not, like whether the convention center should be in Argyle Strait. To understand, we need to have a traffic count, we need to have the traffic flow for now, and then we have to forecast what will happen if there is a convention center there, or maybe we should monitor after the implementation, and we should continue, because we need to deal with this kind of problem every day. Center plan right now going on, all those corridor development, right? So they are proposing a lot of densities in various places in the peninsula. How many of you are from planning department here? So you are getting my points, right? I'm just making sure. Center plan, right? So center plan, you know that process is going on right now. How many of you have attended any of the center plan public session? You should. You should, because that's the essence of most planning education. So it's important to understand what's going on. And you guys need this kind of information to stand in those public information sessions and talk with evidence, so that everybody believe you. It's not your personal feeling what you believe in. It's the facts and figures what drives you to the conclusion, to a good conclusion, to good planning decisions. So it's very important to understand how to do this kind of things, and these are very important to look at. Okay, I'll now probably jump into the trends, like what are the trends, since we have from 1986 to 2001 data set, or 2006 data set, I believe here 2006. So we can actually track what's happening, whether we are making progress in many areas of travel behavior with our investment in transportation in Toronto. So you can see the population is obviously increasing in Toronto area, Durham area, York area. Most interestingly, this is probably the the fastest growing area in Toronto for a long time. It's Mississauga, if you don't recall which one is, but Hamilton and Durham is like the slow growth areas, those kind of things. I have not put that. The one interesting thing here is the age distribution by different time. Age distribution, look at the red line. Look at the red line, which is the most recent one, 2006, right? So you see your age, like we are getting more and more aging population, just surprising all other previous trends from 1986, 91, 96. You see that 2006, we are getting more and more trip-making people. These are not the disabled people. These are not the people who are not making any trips. These are the people who are making trips in a given day, right? So it has a huge implication, right? So we need to plan for this new aging population. What does it mean? I will come back to that point maybe later. For example, like maybe now, since these people will not be working in general, so probably they will not make a peak hour trip. They will make trips on the off-peak hours, because they will go for shopping, medical appointment, those kind of things. And if they can't drive, they need transit. But the way we plan for transit is we have frequent services in the peak hours and less frequent in the off-peak hours. Right? So we probably need to rethink like how we design, and I'll show that how peak is also changing with these kind of population transitions. So we need to understand these kind of things.
What's the meaning of GTH?
GTH, Greater Toronto Area and Hamilton. Okay, GTH, Greater Toronto Area and Hamilton. Hamilton is a like separate municipality, but they add all the time with this same in TTS in the same. And you can also look at more information about these kind of things on data management group in University of Toronto. They have tons of report. So if you Google data management group, you will find a lot of information on these. Okay, I'll go. So if you look at here, vehicle availability, vehicles per adult. So you can see like it looks like vehicle availability per person is reducing in some ways in Toronto, or like the main Toronto area, Peel reducing, but in Halton, which is a little bit like the expensive area, it's increasing. But I don't see much implication from this graph in many ways. But this is probably one striking graph. If you look at, with so much investment in transit, subway system and other things, you see auto driving is constant, and in some places it's increasing by years. So it's a constant above 60% all the time. Auto passenger is increasing too. Transit is slightly, gradually decreasing. Yeah.
Do you find any of those trends surprising, given that the awareness of the need for transit and to reduce carbon emissions and driving and stuff? You would think that it would rise at least.
Yes, we are surprised. We are surprised, but I think let's put it this way. People in general, from my various studies, what I found, people pretend to be very, it could be sound harsh. People pretend to be very environmental conscious, but we have always these kind of tendency. It's not in my backyard. So whenever it comes to your choices, we still like more driving, more car, and including me. Like I'm not like excluding myself too. But my point here is my professors like Eric also always told us this way: the price signal is not yet strong enough to switch from auto to transit. It's still cheaper to drive, it's still cheaper to buy gases, still parking, those kind of things. So, and still inconvenient like transit, because we have to also understand why people actually drive. It's a door-to-door service, right? So still those are the issues. So environmental consciousness, I believe in more, we need to offer functional solution to attract more transit ridership than assuming that people will change their mind given those kind of things. So we need to compel or encourage or promote in some ways with incentives and others.
Oh, I just, like, it said auto passengers, like, what I'm getting from that, that's carpooling essentially. Like, I'm looking at that and I'm just, since transit's like decreasing,
Right.
auto passengers increasing, so instead of taking transit, people are just carpooling. Is that?
Probably we can't conclude. Yeah, we can't conclude yet, because it also includes not just carpooling. It also includes like your household members like being auto passenger. So I cannot conclude. I think we have other studies where we do collected like the carpooling data. We should match that, but I will not conclude like exactly like it's happening. One of the reason I can like pick on why we are seeing this, it's more more suburbanization, more sprawling. So when when I was in Toronto in 2004 for the first time, that time still like the Markham was not like a big place to live, like but York, those kind of, but they are now going Pickering. Like now people are buying houses in Pickering. Like it's like a long way away from downtown Toronto. So sprawling. So my point is, so in many cases maybe transit is not available. And I will show you those geographic map as well to get those kind of understanding. But my point here in this class is more like this kind of data is needed to understand the full picture, to see those full pictures. Why not I just jump in quickly here. This map. From this data we also did. So look at these are the transit mode share. You see the red means higher transit mode share, where people live. So you see all the downtown is transit heavy like use. So and some Hamilton area, some of here where transit services are available. So the most of the suburban area, or after suburban area, ex-urban area, or those kind of things, like you see transit ridership is not rising, but probably people are still traveling or living there. So it's not very much surprising we saw transit ridership is decreasing, because we are living more and more outskirts of the area. We can't afford, or like many other things. You can see the GO Transit. So the higher area is like also like GO Transit is still at least keeping like transit not sharply decreasing. If there is no regional transit, GO Transit was the regional transit, probably we could see really like a horrific kind of condition in terms of traffic in Toronto areas. And you can see also the destinations, like the major destinations. So all these points show like the 5% of that Toronto sample where they go for, is it work? Daily trip origin destined to Toronto downtown. So you see, so all the people start from here and they go to downtown Toronto. So you can see how much people they draw in downtown Toronto from various areas. In a given day. You can also see how much trips go to Mississauga Square one. So that's another way of representing. So we understand where we'll be expecting people. So this is our D. I was telling that O and D is important, origin and destination. So these are our destinations. So destination and these points are origin. So destination is our square one, and we can see like from where people are coming from. In Halifax, we have done with our hospitals, like hospital visits and other kind of things. You will be really amazed how many kilometers just people actually use on a daily basis to come to our hospitals. Like that, we probably estimated last year, I forgot the average, but it's a huge number. Like the daily visit, and these are not like just one significant event or others. So we need to understand these kind of things. And you can also see the airport, like how much so major employment area we have drawn there. I think I missed couple of slides here, which might be interesting. So this is proportion of total daily trips. In other way of showing our mode split. Look at automobile in 1986. So automobile, and these are like age, like the person's age. So person age. So you can see like auto trip is still like for the children. I'm just like you can see that seniors are now more and more driving even after their regular retirement age. 65 in 86. You see, this was the car. So that means we are having more and more active senior citizens. So we probably need to, from policy point of view, what's the implication? We probably need to, for example, add some sort of dissemination of licensing procedures. procedures or other kind of thing. Because it's hard to say your grandpa not to use the car. He loved to drive for a long time, but there should be some time, like we need to make, as a family, some sort of decision. So I'm just giving daily life examples, but in transportation we need to have this kind of conversation because the trends are changing in North American population days. And we are also doing, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering if you thought that maybe, like the data's a bit skewed by doing a household survey, like if calling houses doesn't take into account like a lot of young people that don't have like permanent
Household.
households.
Yes, yes. These are big discussion all the time going on. In general, I would say these data are scientifically sound. Scientifically sound. But of course, we have these kind of issues. It's not for the young people. It's more our sampling process. We have like this discussion this fall, like last week in the meeting as well in our travel survey committee meeting. Yeah, because everybody have these same issues, these kind of things. So the issue is like when we sample by landlines. But many young person probably doesn't have any more landlines. Maybe they are on cell phones, those kind of things. So what people are trying to do is they start sampling by phone lines, cell phone lines. So the groups, those conduct these kind of things, they actually ensure like how we can really represent the population. So that's why it's a huge, costly survey in general because it's really well done in many ways. And web surveys are also becoming another way of complement because in general when from my experience when we have done a web kind of survey in Halifax, we got all younger, skewed to younger generation. When I did paper surveys, skewed to like the middle-aged people. And when we do public engagement, it's all senior people. So the medium has a kind of a impact on these kind of things. So we need to, in the study design part of it, we have to be very careful, consider all those issues. Very good point.
Do studies ever incorporate both, so web-based information as well as landline?
Right.
Even it up?
Right.
Okay.
And they are actually going now a little bit far, like the next step is GPS. So now they are doing this GPS so from the address book, okay, they do GPS. And many jurisdiction also does it by address book. Then they collect phone number. So you have all the addresses, so from random, we generate that random sample from there. So then we go for that. But in general, I would say this trend is quite, and there are a lot of other weighting factors, like we can adjust even if we see that there are some problems with underrepresentation. So statistically, like those things are possible too, and these are adjusted here. So like when I'm talking about these, and it's probably from the two paper I uploaded, are from that Amar Shalabi and Miller Shalabi paper. So it's already peer reviewed as well. So my point here is you can see these driving trends is going down. And also that same thing looks at the public transit side. Like in 1986, a lot of like the senior citizens are using public transit, but in 2006 it has been reduced. In general, public transit use peak is this 20s, kind of. So a lot of people in this age group are using public transit. Middle-aged people are still heavily auto dependent, and so these are the trends. So we need to understand in various dimensions, by age group, by income, by gender, like those kind of things, in making our decision, policy decision, planning decision, those kind of things, as well as monitoring as well. So these are also start time. That's also interesting. So start time for your trip. So you can see that in the Greater Toronto area, you can see the start time is in general these are peak hours, and in general the off peak is usually staggered, longer. So peak is not so these are total daily trips. So the total daily trips you can see. So lots of trips are making in the morning starting time, evening starting time. But as I was telling you, you see gradually, into the red line is 2006, gradually the off-peak total per person trips is increasing. That means we need to look at like off-peak hour transport planning as well, because quite often, like for a long time, transportation planners are doing transportation planning decision based on peak hour need and off-peak hour. They're reducing those kind of things, but we probably need to look at those kind of things. Or we can also do in some areas, like for example in LA, in LA, for example, like the peak becomes so high, morning peak and the evening peak, it's not possible with the existing capacity of roadway to offer the same kind of service. That's why these TDM ideas came, staggered office hours in the morning, so that we can split the peak, so that we can maybe let's assume that we can only handle 10% of these total trips in our roadways. So we need to split it. We can have these telework more. We can promote offering some incentive to employers to offer more at home work in a day kind of, or carpooling, or other ways of reducing number of trips or number of vehicle trips. Those kind of things. So we need to then be very innovative to reduce these numbers, and we can monitor these kind of numbers, and it's very important to make those kind of informed decisions. Any other questions on these? So for you, it's important to understand what does these terminologies means. For example, trip rate, like trip per person. And also you should have some understanding of what does it mean, how to interpret this kind of graph, like what are the policy implication, or how to create this kind of simple graph from the data, from aggregate data. So try to look at my slides, all those slides, try to understand what's happening, try to have your ideas, write it down, and have some thoughts on each of those. And those two papers might help you a lot, and that I uploaded. That explains also this kind of relationship, and I'll come to that as well.
In terms of interpretation, is anything past 2400, would that just be 1 into a 7.5, 7? Am I reading that part right? Like, are these hours on a 24-hour clock?
Yes, yes. It's a 24-hour log, but I think it's a 7. It started 4. So I think the way it probably was represented is it's 1. It's 12 o'clock at night. It's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2 a.m., 3 p.m., and 4 p.m.
Oh, because it started at 4.
Right,
so.
right. I think that's the reason. Like it's just the person who created probably didn't rename it. Yeah. Okay, so these information are quite important, and also this travel behavior data set is useful to forecast, which we will be talking how to do forecasting in the next in the second half of the course. So, but these are also a requirement to do those kind of things. Now these what we have already talked. Now these are generalized graph. Like created from this kind of data, and it's in your textbook. You can also read the same these discussion on American context in this book. I forgot which chapter, but I was not assigned this reading because it's more American kind of context. It's not Canadian, so. Yes, it's in the chapter 1. In chapter 1, you can actually look at these policy implications and those kind of things. So these are also like different kinds of relationship that we can build from these data set, and has some some good impact. So for example, let's look at these male and female person trip length. It looks like person trip length is increasing for over time for per person trip length for the male is gradually increasing, but for the female, you see it's abruptly increasing. So it probably shows like more female participation in the workforce, more like the change of in the society over time. So it's from the book, like you can get other kinds of things too. Persons miles traveled. Oh, I should clarify this. In here in Canada, we call VKT vehicle kilometer traveled to understand how many kilometers you are traveling. In America, of course, it's VMT vehicle miles traveled. So when you be reading, you should like understand these are the same thing.
I found that strange because I read an article yesterday that they use VKT in the States, and then there was another one done in California where they described road congestion pricing, and the descriptions of all the roads included feet in kilometers, but no mention of
So
miles.
probably someone, say Canadian or British consultant, or like, it's my opinion, in general it's VMT. Since they use miles, so there is some tendency of using VMT, but I know a lot of scholars like in different universities does use VKT as well because it's compatible with UK, Australia, with us and others. So I'm just making sure, like sometimes you will see VMT, it's nothing else, it's just a converted version of saying VKT. Okay, yes, but I know Caracokalman, Texas, Austin use VKT all the time. So yes, but in general like that. And you see our person-mind trouble is increasing for over time. So we are actually more and more, no matter what we are doing in terms of active transportation and other things, the total miles that we are traveling by car, by vehicle, is increasing for a long time. So there is no good news. Like I can report from many jurisdictions, there is not enough good news except one. Last year, Montreal reported that they have got 1% increase in transit ridership. In Transportation Association Canada conference in Halifax, last year they reported, like from their OD survey, like the same TTS, like that survey that I showed for Toronto, they reported for the first time they got 1% increase in transit ridership. Okay? Because there are also some other implications you guys need to know. Maybe those who are driving is always driving. Maybe when we are putting this kind of active transportation lane, we are drawing people from transit. Mahmoud is right now doing one research, like mode switching. Like it looks like transit people are switching mode, maybe they are going to walking. So maybe not the auto owner people we are drawing. There are some good examples. Let's talk about some. I talked about a lot of theories today, practical stuff. Like there was I think in San Francisco or other areas, there is a toll bridge, new toll bridge. They changed the bridge to toll, like HOV lane, one lane. So HOV lane, so that you must have 2 persons in that to cross that bridge, and it's a very important bridge. To connecting. So what happened? There was a bus stop nearby before that bridge, and every car owners like actually drove to that bus stop every day and pick up someone to give some kind of car ride just to avoid the toll. So you have to think about our policy implication when we are doing something.
My friend lives in LA, and I went down to visit, and they have like on every highway there's always a speeding car lane that you can get out of traffic if you have someone else in your carpooling. And they said people would have like dummies and put like a big baby seat in the back and
everything to get it through, yeah. So we need to really think about the real causes. Is it like where we live or how we build our cities, or is it just behavior we should be pushing? Is it pricing? How we can do it? It's important to understand why things are happening. So when we are doing any transportation design, like right now we actually are no more in the supply business. to solve any transportation problem, everybody is like not like in the mood right now to put more supplies, more people. But we need to have some innovative ways of demand management. And that demand management, in my opinion, also include land use planning. We need to stop building neighborhoods in Bedford West so that our son can buy a home there and drive every day half an hour instead of living 5 minutes walk, what he did in his first year. And we need to stop giving these kind of cheap rate parking passes in Dalhousie. Because I calculated, we are rational, utility maximizing person, right? We calculated when I never drove to University of Toronto from my home because each month is probably $200 plus for parking. And here, with the $200 parking, I can get a yearly parking. So even if I don't drive, like there is no excuse. Why should I live closer and buy a house with a higher price? Not a good house or new house. These are rational economic decisions. So we need to really get into inside. There is no awareness campaign. There is no kind of like goodwill kind of things can change these things. Because people are rational, utility maximizing people. So we need to offer them utilities. We need to show them health benefits. We need to show them price signals. We need to have higher fuel taxes or free transit. Like, these are radical ideas. I am now outside of my theoretical discussions. But we need something that can give like some reason to change their behavior. We cannot just expect people to be changing behavior. We should need to calculate real cost. For example, the more we are sprawling, the more we need service cost because you need more pipelines to connect that. You need more telephone line, electricity line, gas lines. So maybe we can do progressive taxing. If you live outside the city, you pay more, like suburbs. These are radical ideas, like for now. But what I'm trying to say is we need to get it from the budget point of view. Like we need to understand, right now we pay more if we are inside city, right? What if we just change it, shift it, reverse it? Let's see how